back to another episode of MJ's Progress, Not Perfection. Today's guest is Steve. Steve has a couple episodes. We did an episode that is audio only because the video got messed up from Skype. So look for that on Apple, iTunes, look for that on Google, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, it will be up there as a bonus. But this will be audio and video. So if you're watching on YouTube, then you're going to see this part. But if you want to hear more from Steve, then check out the bonus by going to Apple, by going to Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can find us under MJ's Progress, Not Perfection, and you'll be able to find some bonus episodes that are actually audio only and none of it's on YouTube. But enjoy this episode. It is sponsored by MJ's Progress, Not Perfection Meeting Center Association. The name sounds familiar because it is where my podcast studio is held. We are in our meeting center where we do all these meetings for mental health and addiction. And since we can't get any of the local businesses to sponsor what we do here, I figure I'll sponsor the podcast. I can do this podcast anywhere. I can do this at home. I can do this in a closet somewhere. I can do this in a basement somewhere. It doesn't matter. All I need is somebody else to talk to about addiction and recovery, and I can do this podcast. What I can't do from anywhere is help people with their addiction and their mental health problems. We've had a lot of amazing success stories that keep me so filled with gratitude that I do this. So if you can help out what we do here, then that would be amazing. We do have a Venmo, we have a Cash App, we have a PayPal, we have an address you can send a check to. And, all the money that gets donated goes towards rent, goes towards keeping the lights on, and goes towards keeping the internet on. That's all. That's all we need. We don't need a lot to keep this going. We need like $750 a month. We get $750 a month, and everybody can come here all day long for meetings, and it would be amazing. So please, if you can give $5, $10, $20, it doesn't matter. Anything you can is so appreciated. So that's who is sponsoring this podcast for now on. If you are a local business, if you're a national business, whatever, and you want to be a part of what we're doing, you can reach out to me, and we can talk about how you can be a sponsor. But I'll let you get back to the episode.
It's such a weird drug, dude. Like, I actually think it's the most overrated drug in the list of drugs.
It's the shortest half-life.
It's so weird. It's like, I don't know. It's like it's like a tease, and you don't really get high. Like you do, but not really. I feel like, I don't know, for me. And then it's like, I don't know. I just don't know why. Afterward, I'm like, why did I do that?
I would have to do like an entire 8-ball in a night to feel the like high of coke.
I'll take a nap after an 8-ball. Like,
yeah, I went on a coke bender. Like, I was never really into coke, and then I moved to North Carolina, and I couldn't get pills, and my fiance had just died, and I just needed to like escape everywhere I could. So I was drinking a lot, but I could get blow easily. So there was times where like I would go through an 8-ball in a night, just setting up giant lines, only because I wanted to snort something that had nothing to do with the coke. It was me needing the act of snorting.
It's like a habit at that point. You're just like a creature of habit.
Were you a snorter?
Yeah. I never shot a drug. Actually,
neither did I.
So I did shoot one drug once. I shot ketamine. It's a buddy of mine. He was from the vet. We were snagging it from some vet clinic or something, and my friend fucked up, like, because you cook it, like, you put a plate over the boiling water, and then it kind of, like, rises up, and then, like, you just catch it at the right time. He couldn't get it at the right time, like, in the right temperature, the right steam, all that. So we were just like, fuck it. And I was like, all right. I shot at my leg. It's like, that seemed like a pretty, like, innocuous place to shoot myself up with the drug. So it was a fun experience. We watched March of the Penguins. That was pretty fun. But I'll never do that again. But yeah, no, I was a snorter mostly.
And like, were you addicted to the act of snorting?
Mm-hmm.
Like I like the ritual.
Very much.
Like the ritual is so important to me. Whether I had a different.
It was a stupid ritual. You'd be like sitting in your car in fucking Walmart parking lot.
No, but I had different rituals depending on where I was. You know what I mean? Because like when you do pills so much, you find different. Like I'm either doing them in my car or doing them at home, right? Those are the two places. And at home, it's set up like with the dresser and the whole thing, and you have like a whole everything is in a certain spot, and you go. But in my car, it was always, I don't know about you, but like I used full size straws in my car, because full size straws.
Straws.
Yeah, and so like I broke all my CDs. You know what I mean?
Did you do the thing where like you would bend it and then bite it and then snort it? My buddy did that, and I couldn't get into that. Like he tried showing it to me, and like, cause I think it was cause one time I was with him and he did that, and then my other friend who was driving hit a pothole, and it was like boop, and then it just went like all over.
See,
I was like, I don't want to risk that.
I did them every day that way. Like I would get in my car, I would drop. McDonald's and Wawa are the only straws you could use for this, because all the other straws were too small to fit the pill into. Because McDonald's, they had the fatter straws, and so do Wawa. So if you got their straws, you could actually fit a full size 30 without breaking it in
even
half.
like Big John's, like the
M's,
5, 7 1s or whatever.
I didn't really fuck with them, but they came around right as I was leaving the U's.
Yeah, a little bit before that.
Yeah, it was like coming in right as I was going. I was still on M's, V's, A's.
I heard they don't make most of them anymore.
Yeah, they probably don't. Those companies probably got in trouble.
I also heard they're like $2 a milligram too.
I'm so glad I'm done, man. I got out.
Yeah. When I started, it was like $10-15 for one. Like
like
$2 a milligram.
I went to 30s because they were cheaper than buying 10s. You know what I mean? It was cheaper than buying 10s.
Oh hell yeah.
30s.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I would drop like sometimes 3 or 4 into that straw, bite it, extend it, and good to go while I was driving. And then there was that one time, right? I picked up, but it was so random. I picked up my dude, and my dude was a guy who didn't do them. He just sold them, You know how some of the pill dealers, either you get the ones like me that are like strung out, that are selling the pills just to support their habit. Yeah. And then you get the dealers that, they have full-time jobs and they don't ever do any pills. And this is what they do to make money, So this is that dude, and this is in Township or whatever, and I drove all the way to fuck down there from PA, 2 hours. He gets in my car and he's like, "Hey, my car's at the shop. Can you give me a ride?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man. Like, this is, how it is with your dealers. You talk to them every day. It's like your best friend."
Yeah.
So you talk every day. It's the person you talk to every day. So I'm like, "Yeah, man, hop in. I'll give you a ride." So we're driving there, and as we're going there, it's like on Berlin Cross Keys Road. So that road is fucked. And he hands me the 2, and I put 2 in there. That's all I could afford that day was 2. So I load up the 2, and I'm breaking it as I'm about to extend. Pothole, shit everywhere, all over my lap.
Just
dust
the right
everywhere.
place, the right time. Well, I guess the wrong place, the wrong time.
Well, I had the right person in my car, because he was like, "Dude, if I did not see that, I never would have believed you. Here's 2 more. Thanks for the ride."
Wow. Wow.
You know what I mean? If he was like, if you would have called me and said that happened, I would have been like, bullshit. But I saw it happen. Exactly. And, this is the same guy that when I went to rehab, I called him up and I'm like, "Hey, man, I got to go to rehab or I'm going to kill myself. I know you owe you $1,800. What do you want me to do?" And he was like, "You go to rehab. You don't call me anymore. You don't owe me the money. If you go to rehab and you hit me up for more Johns, you owe me the money." Haven't talked to him in 3 years. 4 years, 3.5 years. So I reached out one time in sobriety, my first year, just say, "Hey, you're not going to hear from me. I'm doing good. I don't want pills anymore. I just wanted to say congrats on your new business," because I saw on Facebook he got a new business. "Congrats on the new business, but don't worry, I'm not going to be hitting you up for shit. I'm doing good."
That's what's up.
And he said, "That's awesome," and we haven't talked since. So
I'm impressed that a drug dealer had the wherewithal and the care.
Well, you know what it is though? It's that manipulation that we get over time as addicts. I think we're naturally manipulative. So we become, if you're a chatty person like me, I'm hitting up my dealer all the time, and he knows how depressed I am. He knows that I want to kill myself. He knows the conversations that I've had with myself about going into a tree, because I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a relationship. My dealer is my relationship. That's the person you wake up, hey, are you awake yet? How did you sleep? Can I come by? You know? So like that dealer, if you are a person that is a manipulative person, you're going to be best friends with your dealers, you know? And I met other
it's
people
like keep your
that,
friends closer, your enemies closer.
yeah.
You know?
So, well, I mean, we'll keep all this in. I don't give a shit. So, because we're already rolling now. It's fine.
Word.
So, when did you just, what got you into pills in the first place? Because I know what got me into pills in South Jersey. So, what got you into pills?
I think it was like I think what pretty much so like I had tried perks a couple times like when I was 18 I tried one or something like a 5
Like the
milligram.
10s.
Yeah, like some shit like
10,
that, like
yeah.
one here, one there, maybe two there, but like it's over like a period of a few years and like a couple times. And when I was like 21, that's when I got really into like psychedelics like a lot, and I was pretty much tripping like 6 or 7 days a week and for like 2 years. Like I said,
Acid or shrooms?
acid
Molly. Okay.
mostly.
Yeah, acid was my
Plenty
thing.
of other stuff too. Like we did DMT. I had a friend who was a chemistry professor. He synthesized DMT, DET. Me and mushrooms don't get along.
Me neither. I can't. I within 10 minutes I'm vomiting and they don't touch me because I throw up so fast.
Yeah, I had two really bad trips. I did have two good trips after that. But the key is not taking a whole eighth. I can't like I'll do it again maybe, but it had to be like the right circumstances, I guess.
It would have to be California. It's made out there kind of thing. I'm buying it legally for me to feel comfortable doing shrooms again.
Chill, something in a good environment. Like if it's, I don't want it to just be like, hey, let's go get shrooms, like on like a Thursday night in Philly or some shit like that. Like I want it to like kind of mean something, I guess. If I was
but acid can be a fun time. I mean, I went on this. I laughed because at 21 I was trying to find something new. And I went on a whole month binge of acid and ecstasy and fucking shrooms before I got into doing pills a lot because I realized like, oh shit, I can't do acid every day.
That's kind of why I got into the pills, is because I was working at an Applebee's. I was working at the one in Turnersville. And I was working in the kitchen there, and I was the back of the house key. So like a lot of shifts I had to come in at like 7 a.m. for the truck, or I'd be like the first opener. They had like sometimes they would have like one opener, and then like the other two cooks come in like an hour later staggered. And I'd be like wiped out because like the night before last night I was tripping all night, and then then maybe like I did coke in the daytime, and then just did more acid or some shit like that, or did some Molly or whatever, and then I'm like on like 2 hours of sleep or no hours of sleep for going in for a truck shift, whatever. And like I said, like I wasn't really like keen on coke, at least not like on a maintenance level. Like I didn't feel like I could like use that as a tool to like carry on stronger, I guess. So and then I guess so like somebody at work. I don't know if it was somebody at work or I knew somebody outside of work, because it got all kind of blurred at that time. Because like I had a friend who was outside of work who sold tens, and he started working there, and then it was like kind of crisscross. But um I did, I was getting the tens for a little bit, and like it was like like in the beginning of pills, like it kind of gives you like energy, like big time. Like so I guess I was kind of doing it like that. Like I mean it was fun, like and then it became more than just that. It was like doing it like outside of work, and then it was just kind of like it just kind of progressed from there. I didn't really have like, I was always curious, like I guess I didn't really put a whole lot of weight like into like risk whenever like I was trying a new drug. Like I knew I would try pretty much every drug. I had a couple that I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And I guess I didn't really like, heroin was one of them, which I eventually did anyway, and meth was the other one, and I eventually did that anyway too. So I don't know. I guess it was, I was bound to like have something snag me, and that was what snagged me when going on the Rolodex of drugs.
Which
And
is
then
easy
it's just like
too.
the habit thing, you know. I
Yeah.
guess you just kind of keep going with it because it's like I don't know, you just get used to it.
Especially, and I think that we're also like the product of like that South Jersey where it's so easy to like
Yeah,
drive by and see somebody real quick.
yeah,
Like, hey, I'm gonna swing through real quick.
yeah,
The real quick is something that you can't say in a lot of places.
yeah,
And that's something that I learned living all over the fucking place is that I couldn't say I'm gonna swing through real quick when I was in Massachusetts. It was a 38 square mile town
yeah,
with the population of fucking Mount Ephraim. 8,000 people. So like a real quick was a scene about 45 minutes. And then I got to drive all the way back. In Jersey, you can pretty much, all right, where am I going to go? All right, I can see blah 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 on the way, or I can see this dude on this way.
yeah.
I can see that dude on
If you
that
go,
way.
it's like I lived in Blackwood. If I was going to Cherry Hill, Deptford, Runnymede, or Lindenwold, whatever it is, or Atco, like everything's like in 20 minutes or less, pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you're like you come up and like drive, that nobody's got anything, and then you have to go, fucking I don't know, Yeet in Pennsylvania or some shit like that.
Yeah, I mean
But
the worst thing ever was, the longest I ever had to drive when I was living in South Jersey
mm,
was I was in Audubon and we would have to drive to Township, the
mm,
Washington Township
yeah,
to go pick up and then drive back again. It's like I gotta drive all the way out there. It's a half hour.
yeah.
It's like
I
a
used to sometimes I
luxury.
get like because I work in over there, so like I would get done work and like I would something happen, like maybe something fall through, or later on in the night, I want more drugs, so I'd drive back to work, or like somewhere else in Washington Township, and like so I'm going back and forth between Washington Township and Blackwood, somewhere else, like all the fucking time for
Were
a
you
good couple years there.
were you in parking lots a lot? Like I found myself sitting in a lot of parking lots.
Yeah, I remember.
Like
I remember this like I would park up a lot, and then I would like sit there and like listen to music, and I'd be sitting there for like a couple hours probably,
yeah.
and I wouldn't even like realize that's probably like why I'm late for shit all the time now. But but yeah, I was like kind of like I was always parking up like was good on the side. I would always park up on the side where like
The
I guess
employees
like where the
park.
trucks, yeah.
Yeah.
um uh and Wawa's, and then I remember this one time I was at this Wawa, the one right by like the Outback is there in Turnersville.
I used to go to that Wawa a lot and wait to go down to my dude
Yeah,
where
the one
if
that's
he
got like
was
two
like,
entrances and shit, like the
yeah,
one in the back. So like
yeah.
I'm parked out front of there one time, and it was like 2 in the morning, I guess, and I had like 430s crushed up on a CD case. I had one CD that I used almost exclusively the entire time I
What
did.
CD?
I was
You
the Neptunes clones.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why, but I just had that CD, and it was like I don't know, it stayed. So I used that pretty much every time. But I had like 4 of them crushed up on the CD case, and I hear this dude like he's got the Bissell and the broom, and he's like sweeping up shit, but he's like maybe 20 yards behind me, and then I'm just like rip, and then I hear like and I look over my shoulder, and this guy's like 2 feet from my car, just like looking right at me. He didn't give a fuck though. He's just shaking his head. That shit was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
I got
kind of. Oh, sorry, good.
I get like PTSD now from sitting in parking lots too long. Like I remember on
Yeah,
my 1 year anniversary, I was in LA and I was like visiting people. I was waiting for my buddy to get done work and I was just sitting around and I was trying to find something to do, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And I started getting anxious and I said fuck it and I hopped on the next plane back to Philly
damn,
because I was sitting in a parking lot for like 2 hours and it was 1 year clean and sober and I would just like
shit.
starting to look around and I'm like, I never even sat in this parking lot and yet I feel like I've sat in this parking lot for 100. I was like, I need to fucking get out of here. Like I need to do something. And the next flight meant I gotta get on a flight to San Fran to take the red eye home to Phillies and so fucking be it. I need to be moving and doing something. If I'm just sitting in this parking lot, it's not gonna be any good for me.
Yeah, I think just sitting anywhere, like just idle hands, man. Like I feel like actually I would say like if I was going to give advice, if I had opportunity to give advice to one piece of advice to say everybody who like wants to know like how to like keep doing it, it's fucking find shit to do. Like, you have to find stuff to do. Like, I was always like, I kind of like, I have like ADHD, I think. I never got diagnosed, but I have to. Like, there's no way I don't.
Yeah.
And it's like really hard for me to focus and stuff, and I get distracted a lot because like one thing will interest me, but then so does that, and then so does that, and I'm like, I'm pulled over here, and but I also like that trips me up because I'm like, like I'm not actually putting I'm not focusing my energy and my thoughts anywhere specifically. So it's like I'm not really getting anything done. So like it was like once I started to like actually like do shit, like that's when I would like was like, okay, like I felt like really like solid, like rock fucking solid, you know what I mean? I think everybody needs to get something to do. And like whatever it is, even if it's just a hobby.
Episode is sponsored by MJ's Progress Not Perfection Meeting Center Association. The name sounds familiar because it is where my podcast studio is held. We are in our meeting center where we do all these meetings for mental health and addiction. And since we can't get any of the local businesses to sponsor what we do here, I figure I'll sponsor the podcast. I can do this podcast anywhere. I can do this at home. I can do this in a closet somewhere. I can do this in a basement somewhere. It doesn't matter. All I need is somebody else to talk to about addiction and recovery, and I can do this podcast. What I can't do from anywhere is help people with their addiction and their mental health problems. You know, we've had a lot of amazing success stories that keep me so filled with gratitude that I do this. So if you can help out what we do here, then that would be amazing. You know, we do have a Venmo, we have a Cash App, we have a PayPal, we have an address you can send a check to, and, you know, all the money that gets donated goes towards rent, goes towards keeping the lights on, and goes towards keeping the internet on. That's all. That's all we need. You know, we don't need a lot to keep this going. We need like $750 a month. We get $750 a month, and everybody can come here all day long for meetings, and it would be amazing. So please, you know, if you can give $5, $10, $20, it doesn't matter. Anything you can is so appreciated. So that's who is sponsoring this podcast for now on. If you are a local business, if you're a national business, whatever, and you want to be a part of what we're doing, you know, you can reach out to me, and we can talk about how you can be a sponsor. But I'll let you get back to the episode.
Stability financially, maybe, but anything that's going to keep you occupied, something that you love to do, because when you sit around and you don't have shit to do, like, you know, you find things to do, and like, and if it's not something good, it's something bad.
Yeah, even if it's fucking model trains. You know what I mean? Like,
actually, model trains are pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, just do something, because you're absolutely right. Like, even as, like, I go to meetings, and I know you're not a meeting person, you know what I mean? We all different recoveries, and that's the point, is I don't want everybody on here that's Mr. AA or NA or Miss NA or AA. Like, I want people on here that have different types of recoveries, people that even still drink like occasionally, that aren't necessarily like have AUD, alcohol use disorder. Yeah. You can have substance use disorder and not have AUD, you know, because we're not in meetings.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, alcohol use disorder is different from substance use disorder, you know, and the difference is drugs and alcohol, because there are people that can have glasses of wine and not need to finish it and not need to finish a bottle, and the wine doesn't take them into drugs. People can do that. There are people out there. Just I'm not one of them. You can be one of them.
Yeah, it's why like somebody can do it's why like I think somebody can do like a opiate pain management program and use it correctly, and you know other people can't. And it's just like with every substance, it's like, so like I have like a saying, it's like everybody is different and every body is different. And it's like, you know, it's like it's not a one size fits all thing. Everything is just different for everybody, you know what I mean? Everybody's got different body makeups, and different things react differently in different people's bodies, you know. And then there's like extenuating circumstances, you know, like home life and shit like that, nature versus nurture.
Yeah, and some people can drink and, you know, can't drink. They do have AUD. They do go overboard when they drink. But if they're given a pill, they don't like pills. They just take them as prescribed.
Yeah.
You know, so they wouldn't have
that,
SUD.
like literally like they get sick if they try that shit. Like,
if
they try any type of opiate or like anything like that, it just makes them queasy and like they just can't do it.
Yeah, so there are people that are on both sides. So that's why
Yeah.
there are two different classifications according to the DMC, like the official medical guide for codes of what you diagnose. There are SUD and AUD, and not all one thing.
Are you I know you said you run therapy over there. Are you like a certified
We
therapist
run
of some sort?
meetings. No, we run like
Oh,
group
okay.
therapy meetings, like
Okay.
cognitive meetings where we get
Gotcha.
together, and nobody's a professional therapist. And there are a lot of people that come to
Dude,
our meetings that
any
are peer.
forum where people are talking is
And
therapy
yeah,
at this
exactly.
point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of peer counselors too that come here just for themselves.
What's a peer
Where
counselor?
so a peer counselor is say all we have to do is get a certificate, right? You and I could do this,
Okay.
where we could get a certificate and we could help other addicts with not being therapists, but being them as in, hey, I've been in your shoes,
It's
buddy.
like a paralegal to a lawyer.
Yeah,
Sort of thing.
it's like a mentor. It's kind of like a sponsor, but kind of like a therapist version of a sponsor.
I got you. Yeah.
Where I'm talking to you because you've been through addiction, too. You're not necessarily a therapist because you haven't done 6 years of school, but you've got a certificate and you've done 10 years of addiction as your school. You know what I mean? Your school was living it and you have experience to teach it out now.
True.
So that's what peer counselors are. And we have a lot of them in this area for like the LGBTQ and stuff like that. And they come to our meetings, especially
Now you live
on
in the
Thursday
sticks
nights.
though, too, right? Like,
Yeah, we live in we have a college in our town. Bloomsburg University is a pretty big school. For a state school, it's a pretty big school.
is there a lot of meetings around there?
No, not for NA. There's literally before I started NA here, there was only one NA meeting a week in our town.
Wow.
And now
Really?
I just added 4 more. So yeah,
Was
there's
there a
only
big need? The people
yeah. There's literally houses exploding all the time in the paper from meth labs.
Oh shit. Meth's a big thing up there?
Huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I have
Truck drivers probably, right?
well, not even that. It's just that it's easiest to like make.
Yeah,
You can
if
make
you want to do a clandestine meth lab, you want to do it somewhere in the boonies, I guess.
fucking I mean, you can literally make it anywhere as opposed to, weed, you need the right kind of ground sometimes. You need a whole big set. Like, you can literally make meth anywhere. And that's why.
I had a neighbor growing up. Didn't find this out till I was like 18. My mom told me because when I was a kid, it's like there's a son and a daughter. The son was like close to my age, and the daughter was a little bit older, and then the mom and the dad. And then for like years, I didn't see the dad. And I just casually asked my mom one day. We were out front, and I didn't see him. It occurred to me. So, and she was like, "Yeah, like you didn't hear about him?" I'm like, "No, like what?" She's like, he's been in jail for the last like 7 or 8 years. He got 15 years for he got caught with a meth lab in Philly, like a South Philly row home. Like, could you imagine if some shit happened there? Like,
The whole block would have exploded.
Oh yeah, easily.
Like,
Especially these old rinky ass fucking.
Yeah, and that's the difference. Is that's why they don't do that as much around Philly, and around where Philly is, you're in a port. When you are in a port city, you can get anything. Like,
Yeah.
like when you nerd out about like geographics, if you think about all major cities are
I never really give that a lot of thought, but like
because there wasn't roads, there wasn't even fucking railroads back then. Yeah. So to have your city build up the way that it did in the 1800s, you had to have access for a ship to come to port, and if you did not, then you're not going to be a big city. So all major cities do have a river or a port of some sort, because they didn't become a major city for nothing. They became a major city from getting all their shit and all. That's how they got railroads. Yeah. They brought all that through the port. So, and it's still to this day, it's a huge deal with bringing in drugs because they smuggle in so many drugs from all over the place. There was a girl on here that her boyfriend was like a high-ranking dude for a gang, and she wouldn't get into which one, but in Camden. But he ran a lot of shit in Camden for years. And she was saying how much they had to go to the port all the time. That's where, they would get shit from. You know what I mean? It would be delivered.
They had 2 really big cocaine busts recently. There was one, I think, last month. And then there was another one from like maybe like a year and a half ago. I think.
Camden's doing a lot better ever since they decided, like, hey, we need to fire the entire police force.
Yeah, I actually got a big argument with somebody on Twitter about that because he was like, he's like, what do they call it? Community policing. I'm like, he's like, community policing doesn't work. It goes by their statistics. Da, da, da. I'm like, but like, whether it's them reporting the statistics or some other agency, a third, like an outside agency reporting, how many homicides there are, it's still going to be this many people died, this many people got shot. So what do you mean? And it's like a drastic change. It's like something like, I think they went from 61, like their highest one was like, it was like in it was like in the early 90s, I think, 93, I want to say. It was like their highest level ever of homicides. Like, and then now they're like, it was like 60 something, I think 61, I think, in a year. And then, they're down to like 20, I think, a year
It's so
now.
much better. It's ever since, well, because the
You
cops
didn't hear
can't.
shit about them during all the riots. Like, they were quiet. And actually, there was a march where it was like police and the community like
Where they
walking
walked
together.
with them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very impressive. And it has a lot to do with what the county sheriffs do instead of like when you were city cops, the city cops were in the town and doing shady shit with the people they were supposed to be, arresting.
Yeah.
That was the problem was they had to they had to fucking fire the entire police force because there was so many people like that were doing shady things. They didn't know which one was doing which. They just said, fuck it, we're firing everybody. And then the
gotta
county
try something
sheriffs
drastic. Yeah. I think there's one thing that I think I don't totally agree with that they do. They make use of security cameras and CCTV. I'm not really keen on that. I guess I don't know the full extent of it. Like, I don't know exactly I know it's only in public spaces. I don't know. So like I have to like look at it, I guess, but just the thought of it kind of like makes me go like I don't know. I'm not
were
really.
you on CCTV that night or was it a security camera that night that like
Oh, that was his.
Oh, okay,
that
that
was his
was
camera.
Okay.
He had one and the neighbor had one too, which I found like later on, or he showed me later on. But yeah.
Yeah, that's for anybody, what there's going to be a second part to this release of this episode where we talk about the Dodo story that we kind of just referenced. Yeah, so anyway, now when did you start noticing or did you notice at all that you were an addict, that you needed these pills every day, or were you in denial about it?
I was in denial about it for like it was pretty quick, I guess, when I grasped it, but there was still like a period of denial. I started doing them in like late 2008, like 2009, like ish, and then it was around 2010 is when I started to like, I guess like point it out to myself in like an inner dialogue.
Yeah.
And then I I didn't go more than a year at that point before like I just told my parents, you know what I mean? Because I started realizing that they like, they could pick up on it. They didn't for a while, but then I could tell that they were, and then it was maybe like 6 months or something like that. A lot of like, it hanging over our heads because I was living with my parents at the time, and they'll bring it up. What are you gonna like? Do you got to do something about it? And then me just being like, like whatever. And then like 2011, I told my mom that I wanted to go to rehab, and then so I did. But it was still a long struggle after that. Like I still had like a lot of, I guess, figuring out to do, because it was like a whole nother, what's that, like 2011, 2000, another 6, 7 years that I did them after that. So, and the longest I ever did them, like like I said, like I stopped. I would detox myself a lot. Towards the end, like I kind of figured out this little like way to do it. But like I'd always hop right back into it pretty much. I never went more than like, I think the longest I didn't do them was right after rehab. I probably went like 4 to 6 months, not even, and then beyond that, maybe like a couple weeks I would go. you know.
Yeah. Now, how would you detox yourself? Because like you only went to rehab once, right?
Yeah.
So
Actually, in rehab, I declined Suboxone too.
So did I. Yeah, because I didn't want to be comfortable.
I asked questions though, because like I wanted to know, like, hey, like if I don't take Suboxone, because I wanted like my whole, like, I knew, I guess I knew even from day one, if I was going to get clean, it would have to be sans another medication. Like I could not continue another medication just to like, get off of that. At least for me. Like I have no problem if other people do it. Like, whatever works for you. As long as you have a fruitful life. But I guess I think I always knew that I had to do something like that. But I would basically do like I would have, so I would get like one Suboxone. Usually I would keep a couple around. So like I would have like maybe 3 or 4 at a time, and it would last me a while because I would take.
You wouldn't be doing halves like these fucking
I'd be
doctors
doing
are
like a
prescribing.
half. I would break it up into like, so I'd break it up into 2 halves, and then the one half I would break up into 8 pieces, and then the other half I'd break up into like 10 or 12 pieces. So they're like, anywhere between 0.5 and,
And this is for the pill
0.75.
itself.
What's that?
You were using the pills? Because
I
there were
was
sub
using
pills or
mostly the strips, mostly, but I
Okay.
would use the pills sometimes too. I guess it depends what they had, but most of the time it was strips that I was getting. And then I basically, like, day one, wake up and put it under my tongue, like one of the bigger pieces. Well, it's small as shit, but the bigger of the tabs. And
So
then
you
put
were
it on my tongue.
tapering.
Yeah, and then I would put a podcast on, lay back, and my thought process was like, my mouth's dry as shit in the morning. So you put that on your tongue, because like if you salivate and you swallow your saliva, you're not getting the Suboxone. So I wanted to get like every fucking ounce of that Suboxone in my body. So I'd listen to a podcast, lay back, and then I would usually doze off for another 20 minutes, 30 minutes, hour. And then it would kind of like, I would be pretty comfortable, and then I would take another one after dinner, and then I would do that again for day 2, day 3, and then day 4 I would switch to the smaller ones, and then I would do day and night, day and night, day and night, and then day 7 I would just go to 1 in the morning, and then sometimes I'd have to go to like day 8 and do 1 in the morning, sometimes day 9, but usually day 7 or day 8 and then in the morning, and then I was good after that. And I was like, at first I was like, yeah, it was great. Like I can manage, like, I can just stop when I want and get right back into it. And I was like, this is stupid, because like I'm still spending my money, wasting like this, so I did that for like maybe like a couple years, and then that's when I finally stopped. So
So what was it that you were just like, all right, I'm finally done. Like I'm done with these.
you know what? I don't know, because at the time that I stopped, I had, my life wasn't like nearly in the turmoil that it was. I got a felony maybe like a year, I guess, prior. But as like after the felony, I was just like kind of like minding my P's and Q's, just staying home, but I was still getting high here and there. And then I started selling heroin, and then I started doing heroin rather quickly, and then I was doing a lot of heroin rather quickly. And then this one day I was watching the World Cup. It was this morning, and I had work at like 12. I was working at Rexy's, and I work at 12, and the World Cup, and the World Cup was in Russia that year. So I saw the games would be like at like 8, 9 in the morning. So I woke up in the morning, watched some. I think it was the first game, and um, I was just nodding. I was getting high in the morning, so like I was nodding out, and then I fell on the floor, like I fell out of my chair. Like I never even I never overdosed. I never, if I would nod out, like I would, I'd be like sitting down somewhere, and like I wouldn't fall out of my chair. Like I wouldn't be like somebody seeing Kensington, like standing up, like falling over like that. So I was never like in that like mode, I guess. And I think, I don't know. I don't know what went through my head at that moment, but like I was on that floor, and then like I kind of got up, and I was just like, I sat back down, and I was just like, I don't know. Something came over me, and I was just like, I'm fucking done with this shit. And then I I texted a couple people at work, and I was like, hey, like, I need some shifts covered this week. I need to be out, like, and then couple people got me, and then I think a couple people knew, like they figured it. Like my one buddy worked there. He knew, um, and yeah, I spent 8 days in my bedroom. It was the worst 8 days of my life. Dude, heroin withdrawal is 10 times worse than Percocet withdrawal. Did you
I
ever? Did you heroin?
no, that was I knew I was an addict a month in, and I had that kind of inner dialogue. I've talked about in other episodes that inner dialogue saved my life because it lasted me 10 years of doing pills, but it also kept me from doing heroin at all because I knew that I was an addict early on, and I said to myself, "You're gonna be fine as long as you don't do heroin because you're gonna lose control if you do heroin, and you can control this." So it was
I
good and
don't
it
think
wasn't.
anybody. I don't think like I feel like no matter what, like I don't feel like anybody has any idea how out of control, how little control they have over heroin. Just like because I think it's like 80% of bags of heroin you buy is not heroin. It's
Yeah.
like fentanyl and then like a bunch of fentanyl analogs and like or some crazy fucking test chemical that's barely on the DEA's watch list.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
So you get through that 8 days and you're just like, all right, now I'm fucking done. Like I'm good.
yeah, I
Like,
don't know. It was so weird. Like I don't know, cause like there wasn't like a profound thing that happened to me, and um, I just kind of did it, and then I I don't know. I knew I didn't have like a distinct thought about it, but looking, I guess in retrospect, I had an air of confidence that time. Like I don't know what it was. Something just felt different, and I think I just really was just over it. I guess
now
like
what was your felony for? Can I ask about that?
burglary.
Burglary, and that was
Yeah.
driven by pills or heroin.
I was doing pills at the time. Yeah,
Okay.
the heroin came after the well, actually, was it after that? Yeah, it was like right after it is when I got into the heroin.
So
Like
what
right
were
after.
you doing that you catch a felony with pills then? Because like I've gotten
I
caught with pills and
I I had a friend who I was staying with at the time. I was homeless at the time. And he was supposed to go to Mexico or something with his dad. Um and they something happened where he missed his flight. So my friend like just didn't go on the trip. I think his dad did though, and then he he used his dad's house for like laundry and stuff like that. So like he asked me because I drove at the time and he didn't, and he asked if we wanted to go there to do some laundry. So we did, and then he randomly brought out this giant water jug of change, and he was like, yeah, he's like, you ever take change from your parents? I'm like, yeah. um and he's like so he's like, yo, let's take a little handful. So he took a handful, I took a handful, and that was that. And then when we got back to the house later at night, I think it was that night or the next night, but I took the house key from his keys and I went over to the house and I took like half the change jar. I don't know why I didn't just take the whole change jar, but
yeah. What did you do
like
with
it
the
would have because like I had
change?
to like pour out half of it. It's
Yeah.
just like a big jug, so like I had to pour out half of it, and it would have been like a lot quieter if I just picked up the jug and just put it in the car. But I don't
Yeah.
know. But yeah, so I guess his dad realized it, and it was me or the other kid, and I confessed to it like right away, pretty much. I don't know why. I don't know why I do half the shit I do, but yeah, I was just like, um, yeah, I was like, I did it.
Well, you
So,
probably didn't think it was a felony to take change.
well, it
What
was,
made was it over $500 or some shit?
so actually, you know what I found out? I found out when one of my other charges, I had, for stealing a cell phone. Like I was trying to steal, I was selling a stolen cell phone, and I found out that, um, if there's like I think it's like $300. I think it might have changed though, but if the item of value that you stole is over a certain amount, it's considered a criminal offense, and then if it's under, it's a misdemeanor. But the value goes off whatever that person says it's valued at. So if you have an $800 iPhone, right, and it's a year old, and it gets stolen, and they find the guy and say like, okay, and the cops will call you like, hey, like, what was this? How much was it worth? If you sit there and say $800, it's $800. If they say it's worth $100, it's worth $100. You know, like it's totally up to them. So they had a couple times where they actually, like, the one guy didn't want to press charges. He was just like, no, he's like, I guess he, like, I don't know. He was pretty cool about it. But the other time, I was under as well. So they were 2 misdemeanors. And then this was, I don't know how much, I forget how much it was. I think, but it was like right above it. Like it wasn't even, it was like maybe a couple $100, maybe $300, something like that.
Did you take Xanax too?
What's that?
Did you do Xanax too?
I never really, that wasn't really my thing.
Because Xanax always made me steal. I always would steal shit when I was on Xanax. I would never really steal, like, burglary.
Everybody I know destroyed shit. I think I'd rather have somebody steal from me than destroy my house. Like, here, take $50. Don't break everything.
Yeah, just leave everything how it is. Yeah. So now you copped to that, and what was your charge end up being for that since you admitted to it? Like,
so I was charged with third degree felony burglary, and then I pled it down to 4th degree, and then they had another charge which got there was another, I forget what the other charge was, but they took that off. But yeah, so it was like a 4th. I didn't serve any time.
Yeah. I swear they throw charges just to see what'll stick by the time they get to court. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, yeah. It's funny, you know how, like, they're making weed, so like they're expunging like records pretty much.
Yeah.
So I was not able to go through. They have like I forget what the term is in Jersey. It's like a deferment program.
I was part of it. Yeah. Something with an M, like mediation or some kind of
something like that. It's like it's like that thing where like it
takes it away.
Not really a charge, but like as long as you do good behavior, it's like not there.
When I stole like $4,000 worth of jewelry once, right? When I was on Xanax, when I was house sitting, and it was down like an ACO, and I was house sitting, and I don't remember any of this, but I stole a bunch of my old boss's wife's jewelry, and I went to the closest pawn shop and sold it. And still, like I said, I don't remember any of this shit because of Xanax. But when I got charged, you know, what sucked is they arrested me in Audubon. They drove all the way down to Audubon to arrest me at my house, and I had to get cuffed.
Oh, well, I guess it's the charge.
They came with the cop. The Audubon cop.
Gotcha.
And it knocked on my door, and then they had to take me for processing all the way down to ACO. So I had to get handcuffed and driven back. You know, I was in the back of the car handcuffed for 45 minutes for that ride down Whitehorse Pike. You know, all the way.
Yeah, because Audubon. I'm thinking from
my
place.
40-minute ride.
That's like maybe half hour. Like
nope, 40 minutes, 45. So I finally get there. The only good thing was it gave my dad enough time to pick up his mom, who just sold her house in Long Beach Island, and get her there to get me out with cash bail before I got sent down to county, right? Because if not, they don't get there on time, I'm going to county for processing too. So they bailed me out enough, you know, fast enough. And I had to do that deferment thing where they gave me a year probation, and I had $4,300 in restitution to pay back. And I had to do 150 hours of community service and all that shit.
Oh, I didn't have to do that. I was surprised I didn't have to do that.
First, they gave me community service, and it was like fucking November, and I was going to have to do trash pickup like on Mondays with Audubon's trash. And after one day, I said to my probation officer, listen, my back is fucked. There's a reason I'm prescribed these pills. Like, I can't be doing trash pickups like this. I'm never going to do my hours. So she had me do something else. So I found the VFW in Runnymede. And I went into this.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
I went right by that playground. It's right by that playground on Blackhurst Pike. And I went into this dude.
It's like white. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, so I went into this dude, and I'm like, hey, man, can I do these hours and blah, blah, blah? Because my dad's office is around the corner. He's like, yeah, that's fine. I would go in there on Saturday and Sunday, and I would mop and clean up the VFW for 2 hours, and he would mark me down for 8 each time.
That's what's up.
So I got through my hours a lot faster that way. and then I paid my restitution back pretty quickly. So I ended up doing 6 months of probation because they weren't drug testing me because I wasn't drug related. I was arrested.
They don't drug test you if you're not drug related?
No, because they don't have the resources at the time. They have so many that are
I
drug
didn't know
related.
that.
I
Interesting.
was arrested for theft, not
Maybe I
arrested
just assumed
for
everybody
drugs.
inside there was for drugs.
I didn't smoke weed in that 6 months just in case, but I still did pills every day because I had the scripts. I had a script for bars. I had a script for 30s. So I could pop dirty for that and be like, look, I have a script and not get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
So I just didn't smoke weed for 6 months. You know, the best thing I could have did for myself
It's
was
amazing how that is. It still blows my mind how, like, I know a lot of places are getting rid of the drug testing for weed, I know, but like it just blows my mind that
one of
the
my best friends,
safest
dude,
drug
yeah,
is the one that like you have to be the most careful about.
he got in trouble for having weed delivered to his house, you know, and he got 5 years probation for it. And so what happens in that 5 years? You get addicted to fucking pills because you can do them on probation. You can
Yeah.
show a probation officer your script and be okay with it. You know, so
Yeah.
he gets addicted to pills instead just because he got some fucking weed delivered to his house. You know, which is now legal in Jersey to do. You know,
Yeah.
so it fucking
Episode is sponsored by MJ's Progress Not Perfection Meeting Center Association. The name sounds familiar because it is where my podcast studio is held. We are in our meeting center where we do all these meetings for mental health and addiction. And since we can't get any of the local businesses to sponsor what we do here, I figure I'll sponsor the podcast. I can do this podcast anywhere. I can do this at home. I can do this in a closet somewhere. I can do this in a basement somewhere. It doesn't matter. All I need is somebody else to talk to about addiction and recovery, and I can do this podcast. What I can't do from anywhere is help people with their addiction and their mental health problems. You know, we've had a lot of amazing success stories that keep me so filled with gratitude that I do this. So if you can help out what we do here, then that would be amazing. You know, we do have a Venmo, we have a Cash App, we have a PayPal, we have an address you can send a check to, and, you know, all the money that gets donated goes towards rent, goes towards keeping the lights on, and goes towards keeping the internet on. That's all. That's all we need. You know, we don't need a lot to keep this going. We need like $750 a month. We get $750 a month, and everybody can come here all day long for meetings, and it would be amazing. So please, you know, if you can get $5, $10, $20, it doesn't matter. Anything you can is so appreciated. So that's who is sponsoring this podcast for now on. If you are a local business, if you're a national business, whatever, and you want to be a part of what we're doing, you know, you can reach out to me, and we can talk about how you can be a sponsor. But I'll let you get back to the episode.
But anyway, yeah, man, it's crazy, you know, what can happen with drugs and probation. Like, yeah, like you said, none of us are even in trouble for weed, and we don't smoke weed. Like for me, I was in trouble for weed and I couldn't smoke weed, but I could do pills the entire time. So now, are your parents, they're not addicts or anything? Like they're just confused watch kid go through it?
My mom struggles with alcohol.
Okay.
She's been struggling with it for pretty much my entire life.
Mhm.
It's kind of like on my mom's side of the family. It's like 100% Irish.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that really has like a correlation to it. My dad's side doesn't have anybody who has any type of substance problem. But my uncle Rob, he's a success story. He was really bad with alcohol. He almost lost his my aunt and my cousin, and like he got kicked out. He was living at the homeless shelter over there by 69th Street, right under the L.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he dug his way out and he got a college education, and now he runs the maintenance for a college. I forget what college it is. Maybe Drexel, I think it might be.
Holy shit.
Yeah. But yeah, he does really well now. He actually does the meetings. He's a meeting guy. And I think he is a regular speaker. He's a really quiet guy otherwise. But I think I heard that he does speak a lot. I never been to a meeting that he goes to or anything like that. But yeah, my mom struggles with alcohol still. she is much better. Like, you know, I guess she's been like not as lethargic, I guess. I mean, there is a lot of stuff going on in my parents' lives right now. Like, they just retired, they moved to Delaware. Um, Delaware is just like one giant interstate rest
I
stop.
know.
It's like the whole state. It's like an interstate rest stop. It's like
it really is
weird. It's so weird. It's like underdeveloped, and it's the first state that's ever been here.
I know.
But yeah. Um, it's I for a little while, like that was kind of like a thing with me for a while, because I was getting pissed off that, like, you know, everybody's like focusing their energy on me, and like why me and not her. And then it took a while to realize, like, it's, you know, I got whatever I got to do, it can't have anything, it has nothing to do with my mom or
Yeah.
whatever other interaction. Like, you know, I got to do me, and then, you know, everything else will hopefully come into place. And like, you know, I would try and even after that, like, I would try to like convince my brother and sister or my dad, like, you know, maybe we should try to push her to do this, that, the third. And they weren't too keen on it for a while. They're more keen now, because of like a lot of different circumstances and whatever. But I'm kind of like, I've kind of like resigned to that. Like, I don't think I don't like I want her to go to rehab, and I just want her to be happy. I want her to like be like have a nice rest of her life, I guess. And like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's more for her, and she doesn't realize it. I think she's just so like, it's
It's a
hard.
habit.
She's been doing it for like fucking 30
50,
years, 40 years, whatever. And like my grandpa, he was an alcoholic too, and he was diabetic. He actually had his leg amputated because of it. And my mom is an alcoholic and a diabetic, and she still continues to do it. And you know, I've you know, all of us in the family have made a mention of it to her at least once at some point in the past. And the first time that I can remember was like 15, when she told me, and she hasn't done anything. So at this point, it's like, you know, it's kind of like she's going to do it on her. She's got to want to do it. She's got to want to do it. And like, I'm not going to push her. I know there's like my brother and sister are starting to get to like they're starting to push her. My sister said something to her the other day about like she flipped out about something. But I'm like, we kind of flip flopped. Like, I'm like, you know,
Are you the youngest of three?
I'm the oldest. I'm
You're
37.
The oldest. Okay, I'm the
who's
oldest of the three too.
And a sister who's 32, I think.
We're pretty, yeah, I'm 35, my brother's 32, my sister's 26. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, we're 3 and 9 years apart, but I'm the oldest of three also. So
Yeah,
I think that's just like,
I was the guinea pig.
yeah. Yeah, and they get it right by the time they get down there. You know, like,
Yeah.
for me, like, I was the addict alcoholic. My brother, he's good. And my sister, she's the best out of all three of us. You know, they got it right. In the 80s, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They were just figuring their shit out, bro. That's what I learned as being a parent now. Like, man, I'm Googling shit for my 7-year-old. I'm like, man, how do my parents do this shit? You know? So, and the alcohol, that's a tough thing. You know, like, if you can't handle it or you think you can, it doesn't matter, because it is so acceptable. You know, like, we kind of made mention last night briefly with my new episode that I posted yesterday that was audio only to protect your identity. Like, because you had started listening or watching the other day, and I had to take it down because her identity, she didn't want it out there. And it's crazy, the stigma. Like, she's 11 years without a drink, and she still feels the stigma of, like, I don't want people knowing I was a bad mom, you know? And
but if she's a good mom now, then it's like, because the past does not matter. It does not. The past is the past. Like, I know it's like a cliche, I guess, at this point.
And I'm not going to say to her, who am I to be like, no, it's okay to put that out there. I'm a bad son. I put my shit out there. I'm a bad dad. No, it's not. Everyone has their comfortability with their recovery. And if you're not comfortable, I'm not going to make you be comfortable. Just like you have to want to be sober. Sure. you have to want to be comfortable with what our past was. And if you're not comfortable yet with what your past was, that's okay. I'm just extremely comfortable because I've always been like, I was doing stand-up comedy in addiction, just talking about how bad my day was. Get up on stage, it was basically a meeting for me to get up there and be like, I'm JD, I'm an addict, I'm in the wrong room. All right. And just, you know what I mean? Like, and that was a thing, and it is what it is. But that's how I had to do it, was to just talk about it. So it is what it is. I'm just glad I put the episode out there, and I went through and I took out any mention of
Did
where
she come to you like about that? Like,
no, honestly.
Did you ask her like, hey, gotta put it up if it's audio without whatever?
If I'm going to be completely honest, no, none of that. I went through and I took out any identifiers. I took out any names. I took out locations.
I think that's reasonable.
And I didn't put the video up at all. It's just an audio. I even took out like names.
She has a good story, right? Like I didn't finish listening to the rest of it.
My point is of why I felt it was so important to still put up, and we're going to end with this for now, is that, there's a lot of moms out there that drink like she drank, where it was only after 5 p.m. It's not like she was an all-day drinker while she was trying to take care of her kid. She would only drink after 5. She was trying to follow all the rules that society is telling her to make it okay to be a drinker. But she would still forget when she was waking up in the middle of the night and changing her kid, because she would still be like kind of drunk from drinking at night, and then hungover and lethargic all morning from drinking all night. But yet it was acceptable because fucking Desperate Housewives says it's acceptable. There's TV shows, there's Facebook posts saying wine time, mommy wine time. There's all of these things that are promoting for moms to drink wine and it's okay. But yet, there's nothing about like, it's daddy snort a pill time.
And going back to what you said, it is hard for like alcohol has got to be the hardest to manage like post detox, because like it's just so ingrained in society. Like I kind of stopped. Like I didn't stop drinking totally, but like I really, really, really cut back. And like I am at a point where like I do not want to party, like get sloshed, nothing like that. Like I'll have a couple beers at a bar maybe, and then I'm out. Like I barely like people right now. So, but
and that's the thing is I don't ever want to like. Even when I drank in my recovery for 9 months, at 13 months, I started drinking again, and I drank non-alcoholically, but like I would go to see, like I saw Tom Segura live. I saw Bert Kreischer live. You know what I mean? I was going to live shows. I would have a couple drinks before the show. I would go to a pool and have a couple drinks, go out to dinner or lunch and have a drink, but I wasn't like drinking alcoholically until I actually did drink alcoholically at the end for the last day, and I woke up hungover and I said, fuck this, I'm done again. But and that's the problem, is it's everywhere. I can walk into a fucking Sheets. In New Jersey it's different. It's not everywhere as much. But in Pennsylvania it sure as fuck is. Like we don't have Wawas up here, we have Sheets. But if I walk into Sheets, I can walk past an entire refrigerator that's a walk-in of all the beers and whatever, Twisted Teas, the shit that I like, and I'm like, I can't, like, this is like totally different.
Even on the social level, like people just, it's almost like second nature. Like
it's a first date idea.
Doing some kind of a social gathering, it's like alcohol.
It's a first date. It's a first date on Tinder if you're trying to see somebody. Hey, let's go to a bar and have a drink and get to know each other.
They have that one thing. It's like it's like things you like to do, and it's like grab a drink or something.
But it's not like.
It's not even like phonetic or grammatically like
grammatically correct. Like, hey, my name is JD. I'd like to take you out sometime. I got some lovely blues I can bang up for us, and we can do some tootsies and have a nice conversation.
It's like everything you do is like it's like I went to North Carolina with my family back in the summer, and I was kind of like,
where'd you go?
Struggling with a little bit. Sorry.
Outer Banks.
Yeah.
And
I was struggling, kind of like, I don't know what it was I kind of went through. I think I'm still going through it. I've been having a lot of like issues with, I guess social settings. Like I don't know if it's like anxiety or something like that. And I have actually been looking for a therapist because I want to handle it like, I want to handle this like in a healthy way and not like, go do some other shit. So in the summer is when like at that time like I was just feeling really like I wasn't like relating with people. I felt like everything that people were doing around me, I didn't want to do. Like, so in North Carolina, like, I'm with my mom's side of the family, and everybody's in vacation mode. My sister's a teacher and she goes to school. She's getting her PhD right now. My brother, he runs an app, and he's an architect. Um, Everybody had shit going on in their lives, and this is their vacation, so they're cutting loose and drinking, whatever. And I just did not want to do that. I wanted to like do other shit. I wanted to like, go walk the beach and just, I don't know, do whatever.
Where were
And
you in
like at the same,
Corolla?
sorry,
Where were you in Corolla?
we were in, where were we? We were just south of Kitty Hawk.
Okay, I think that's what it is. Yeah, I've been there a bunch, but it's walking. You can walk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, I was just, I don't know, I didn't want to do any like just excessive drinking type of activity. It wasn't. And like I told my sister about it, how I was feeling about like I guess life in general before we went on the trip. But I also didn't want to, like, it was like a thing where like you don't want to be a burden on people, but but you also, you're trying not to, be like a recluse, and like, it's not you guys. Like right now I'm just going through something and I just don't want to be around that, I guess. It's like, but you don't want to stop them from doing that, so they, and if then you start feeling like, oh, like even though like you're letting them do that, you start feeling like, oh, like, nobody's really caring, stopping to like, say anything to me, like, so I was kind of like struggling with shit. I still kind of am. Like, I really don't get out a lot. I used to be 100% extroverted. Now I'm like, if I go out somewhere, I'm like plotting my Irish goodbye the minute I walk in that place, dude. I'm like, I don't know if COVID did it to me. But
I think it did a lot for me, at least, too. And I was the same
yeah,
way, very out. Like, I'm always out. Like, I always consider my brother and I talked about it. I was just the best man at his wedding. And,
yeah,
we were like Sean and Corey Matthews growing up, where we weren't together. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I was never around. In high school and growing up, we were 3 years apart, and we couldn't have been any more different. We both played sports, yeah, but I was never home. I was out with my friends. They came first all the time, and he
that's me
knows
and
that
brother, bro.
today.
My brother is the same way. It was
And then
like,
in our 20s, it flopped. And when we lived together in North Carolina, we became best friends and not brothers living together.
yeah,
When we got through that together. And then, now we're best friends that are brothers. We talk all the time. We talk almost
same,
every
yeah,
day. And it's a totally different friendship. And it's just like in Boy Meets World, when you watch it, they didn't talk, they didn't get along when Sean and Corey were in high school. But then when you go to the college years episodes and they're roommates, they're best friends.
yeah,
And I felt the same thing happen to my brother and I, where you could relate to them differently, where you actually want them around, because at that point, we push all of our friends because our friends are the ones getting us high. The friends are the ones that want us to go get fucked up all the time. And our brother just wants us to be our brother. You know what
yeah,
I mean? My brother just wants me to be his brother. He
yeah,
doesn't want anything from me. He's more successful than I am. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, way more successful than I am. He doesn't want shit from me. He just wants to have a brother.
yeah.
And it's that kind of shit that, like, and my sister, the same thing. I don't know about my sister is a normie too, where she can party. She got amazing grades. She
Yeah, my
graduated
sister's
college.
totally like that.
And
Totally.
the crazy thing is that you just mentioned Outer Banks. When I went to rehab, my sister was graduating college, and I was going to have to miss her graduation and miss the Outer Banks trip to celebrate the graduation. And I called her, like, almost in tears to be like, sorry, but like, I got to go to rehab. And then she started bawling, crying, which made me upset. And then she was like, no, I'm not upset. I don't care if you're not my fucking thing. I need you to get sober. I'm so happy. Like,
Yeah,
and she was crying out of happiness. And that's kind of when it hit me, like, okay, I am doing the right thing. Like, I had a big showcase that night, a punchline, for new comics, for Philly's Funniest. and it was the top 20 new comics in Philly. And if you win, and you get a write up and all that shit. I didn't even show up. I didn't even call them. I didn't anything because I was afraid. I didn't think I was going to win, but I was afraid I was going to win. And I was afraid if I won, I would have talked myself out of going to rehab that Wednesday. Because I was a Monday night and rehab was Wednesday. And I was afraid. I knew me. If I would have won, I would have been like, look what you just fucking did high on pills. You can do anything. You don't need to get sober. And I was going to talk myself out of rehab. And so I just didn't even call them. I just didn't even show up.
That's what I did when I went to rehab. I walked into work. I walked in 5 minutes before my shift. The minute the clock hit my shift time, I walked out the back door, went straight home, and then that's when I told my mom I wanted to go to rehab. I had 3 jobs at the time. I quit all of them. I had to just stop. I called the other 2 when I got home. I was like, I'm not coming.
When you know you're ready and you actually want to go and no one's making you, it's a lot easier. Like I walked into my dad's office because my dad and I and my brother, we ran a Roto-Rooter plumbing out here in Hershey. So I walked into his office and I was
Roto-Rooter trucks. I remember
that. Yeah, Roto-Rooter. Yeah, we own a franchise out around Central PA. And I walked into his office and I was like, hey, I got to go to rehab. And, I'm 31, almost 32. And they knew I had problems in my 20s with pills, but I've been managing that problem for a while. And he was like, for weed? Because that's all he knew I did was smoked weed. Yeah. I had quit drinking for 6 months before I went to rehab because it was literally hurting my liver to mix alcohol with the pills. So he was like, no,
shit's so bad for you.
I was like not smoking really as much as you think I was smoking. I was doing pills, every single day. I need to go to rehab for pills. Like I'm ready to go. I found a rehab. Already got a flight. I need to take off. So he was like, all right, well, yep. Just hand me.
You flew to your rehab?
L.A. I went to L.A., bro.
Oh, shit. Why'd you go to L.A.?
Because I saw a documentary called Legend of 420, and in that documentary, they talked about high sobriety, and which was a rehab that helped you change your relationship with cannabis. So
is that insurance based?
No, insurance will not cover it because it's cannabis related.
Is it expensive?
Detox for the first 29 days was covered by insurance, which is the most expensive part because detox. And
was a long-term facility.
Yeah, you couldn't use cannabis in the first 29 days. I was mixed in with everybody else. Part of Muse, MUSC was a treatment center. Muse treatment, New Start, whatever they want to call it now. So we go into treatment together. Then after 29 days, some of us go to high sobriety. Some of us go to sober living right across the street from each other in houses, dropped in on the street. So we had to split up because our medicine was cannabis.
It's like a little community almost, like a
block. We were in the middle of fucking LA. You wouldn't even know what's inside of our house. We're surrounded by other houses. People working 9 to 5s, just dropped in the middle of LA. You can walk by, and only if you knew why there were so many people outside that house.
A lot of housing in LA is like that.
It is. It is so. That's how it is out there. That's why it's so big out there. Is because they are just dropping rehabs in houses everywhere. Yeah. So even my detox was in a fucking house. You know what I mean? Where you wouldn't even. I pulled up with the dude picking up from the airport. I'm like, where the fuck are we? He was like, this is your detox. I'm like, this is the house. He was like, welcome home. But that's what it was 29 days, and that was all covered through insurance. When I went to rehab, when I went to sober living, I had to pay $1,500 out of pocket a month for rent, and then IOP.
That's not too bad.
It's not. And IOP was covered through insurance, so they would charge my insurance for the intensive outpatient that I had to go to, and then I would have to pay rent, $1,500 a month in LA.
I thought you were going to say some astronomical number. No. $10,000 or some shit.
Nope. It wasn't that bad, and it was so fucking worth it. I lived in Culver City. I could walk most places.
Where's Culver?
Culver City's on the west side. It's about a 20-minute drive to West Hollywood. It's kind of like 10, 15 minutes from Santa Monica. So it is along the ocean side. It's the west side of LA. So it's a lot nicer too. It would be nice in the 60s in the morning, wear a hoodie while you're smoking your morning cigarette. You know what I mean? I fucking loved the morning times in LA. Wake up, walk down to 7-Eleven, And I'll grab my cigarettes and my Monster and all that. And we weren't allowed to
I went out there recently for the first time. And actually,
really?
And actually it was funny, that week was like the first time my brother ever saw hail in LA. It was like raining half the time.
Did your brother live in LA?
Yeah, he moved out there like 8 years ago. It was the first time I saw him, actually. Tickets were like $100.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck it. I'm going to LA.
Yeah, it's not that expensive to fly to LAX. You know what I mean? Especially if we do it in advance from Philly to LAX.
There was another airport he mentioned that he said that
Burbank?
It's closer to him. No, not Burbank. I want to say it was Santa Monica. Maybe?
Oh, okay. There is Santa Monica. Yeah.
It's like a tiny airport, like only maybe like only.
Is that where he is? Santa Monica?
He is in Laguna Niguel.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's like maybe a half an hour south of LA.
Yeah, towards Malibu, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Sure. It's in Orange County.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people from Orange County in rehab.
What's that?
Orange County had a lot of people in rehab with me.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, Orange County and what was the other fucking Ventura maybe? Something with a B too. There was a lot of the meth out there is crazy. You know what I mean? And a lot of the drugs are crazy. It's coming straight from Mexico through Tijuana, right through the border down there. So
my brother got COVID in Mexico on New Year's Eve.
Holy shit!
He went to a rave party I think it was in Cozumel. No, not Cozumel. There's a city, like I guess it's like a port city, and it brings you to.
Oh yeah.
I forget the name of it. But he got it there. He's been traveling a lot, and he went to some rave party down there and then got COVID. I'm like, you would, man, you would.
It happens. I'm lucky I skirted it by. I might have gotten it for all the fuck I know. Well, but I don't know.
Did you have a moment where you felt sick?
Well, yeah, and on top of that, but my kid had it, and my kid, was a fucking 7-year-old. We're talking about. He doesn't know how to cover his mouth when he's coughing or sneezing or fucking burping. Yeah. He's a 7-year-old, and his dad gave it to him, and then he brought it into our house from his dad, and somehow my wife and we got tested twice, did not test positive for COVID.
Did you get the was it the test? It's like the antibodies test that tells you if you had it?
No, not yet. No, we got the fucking swab up the nose.
I haven't gotten any tests.
So you haven't been tested for COVID at all?
No, I haven't been sick at all.
Yeah.
I had, like I said, I haven't really been getting out. So like,
I had my gallbladder removed in June, dude. Like, because of pills. Because of all the years of throwing up bile, right? All the years because you know how it is when you're withdrawing. Like when you would withdraw, when you threw up, it was bile, right?
Well, actually, what's funny is all the times I withdrew on Percocets, I never once threw up. When I was withdrawing off heroin, I was throwing up to the point for 4 days straight. I threw up to the point where it was like dry.
It was bile, but when I say bile, I mean it feels like mucus is coming out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's bile, and bile is stored in your gallbladder, and it helps process
and shit.
It's supposed to break down food and all that.
Yeah.
So the problem is, I was withdrawing like that for 9 years, so I always threw up like that, and so my gallbladder stopped functioning after a while, and I didn't know that even in sobriety, and then eventually it shut down in sobriety, and now to the point where.
That's surprising. How long were you sober when that happened?
3 years. 3 years with no pills when that happened.
That's pretty crazy. Like, I would think that it would.
2 years when symptoms started showing, and then a whole year of testing.
Do they not regenerate? Like, they don't. Like, your body doesn't fight anything back.
They just took it out. And when they took it out, they also saw that I'm missing a ton of stomach lining where the gallbladder is. Jesus. Because the bile that I was throwing up started
so violent. Like,
yeah. So now I don't have a lot of stomach tissue, like in my stomach where my gallbladder is under my chest. And so I had this nerve that when I cough, it rubs up against the back of my stomach because there's no tissue to protect.
So did it hurt every time you cough?
It hurts every time I cough to this day. And there's nothing I can do about it for the rest of my life.
Nothing.
And nothing. They gave me a pill for it, and I barely take them because they're small and circular and blue, and I don't trust them. It's a fucking
Fair
thing.
enough.
Yeah, and so I don't like to take them if I don't have to, but sometimes I have to when the pain gets so bad.
Damn.
It's called like desipramine or some shit like that is the name of the pill. It's for nerves.
Okay.
But yeah, it sucks, and it is what it is, and I'm kind of stuck like that, and that's why I don't smoke weed too. That's why I just use the edibles and I don't smoke because smoking makes you cough.
True.
So if I rip a bong, I'm in so much pain from coughing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why
That sucks.
it is what it
It is
is.
what it is.
It gave me a chance to change my relationship with it, and now I don't smoke at all. Now I just use the edibles and
Is there any type of like, can you like exercise and maybe like fortify that area or something? Like I don't know how I don't know anything about stuff.
Not that I know of. So far, all I keep
They said
hearing
that
is,
it's just going to be like that. It's
yep,
just,
is what it is.
and
Just
it's
living on.
crazy that it went 3 years before it actually turned. Like that's weird.
2 years, 2 years before I started getting symptoms, and then it was a whole year of testing.
Odd.
I was getting tested all the time.
That
for
means
a
it just
year.
kept degenerating. It just kept.
It just kept getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's strange.
Yeah, but either way, I'm here now. Even though they shot me with a bunch of fentanyl when I told them not to.
Wait, what?
Yeah, when I went in for that surgery, I was like, listen, you can't give me any opioids. Like, and they're like, okay, we're the doctors. I said, no, but really, you can't. And then I woke up and I immediately knew I was high. And I said to my wife and the nurse, like, I'm high. They're like, no, that's anesthesia. I said, no, this is opiates. I know what I'm feeling. And then the doctor like strolled by and he was like, oh, sorry about that. You looked uncomfortable. So we had to shoot you a couple times with fentanyl and once with the Lauded.
There's got to be a lawsuit.
I'm like, do you know what the fuck's going to happen to me? They're like, you said you haven't done pills in 3 years. I said, I haven't. They're like, you're going to be fine then. Outpatient procedure, bro. As soon as I walk into the parking lot, I start going into withdrawal. I threw up for 18 straight hours.
Damn.
I had 4 incisions in my stomach. I had to hold a pillow to my stomach every time I threw up because I was throwing up so much in withdrawal. I went into immediate withdrawal. Yeah, really? It fucking sucked. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So I can't do opiates anymore. That's what I learned that day.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. Again. And thank you for coming on. I'm going to have you on another time. Especially if you want to do my sports one and talk sports movies with me.
Absolutely.
I know you like sports. Do you follow A2D Radio?
So I have a buddy. I guess A2D also has like a wrestling
they do. Yeah.
thing. I have a buddy that does the wrestling podcast.
Okay, yeah. I'm good friends with Tom Arnone, the guy that started A2D. We went to high school together.
Okay.
The dude that like does Crumb of the Week and started A2D Radio, him and I grew up together. And he was looking for new show ideas. Yeah, right in Mount Ephraim. Literally, he lives in Mount Ephraim, does it out of his garage.
Oh,
and so a bunch of people on the show I know from high school. So he was like, "Yeah, looking for new ideas."
It's amazing the landscape of
him and I used to get high together.
Creators like with this stuff, like you can just do it from your garage. Like you just start a fucking website and it's amazing.
I used to sell him pills like 10 years ago all the time when he was addicted to pills still. Like you know how it is. So like I hit him up. He knows what I'm doing with my podcast, and he's been like saying, "Oh, that's awesome," blah blah blah. So I was like, hey, how about a show where I just break down my favorite sports movies with different guests each episode and have the guests pick a sports movie and we break it down?
That's weird because I was thinking, because like I'm definitely doing something with movies on my YouTube channel, and I was thinking about, so I have a buddy who is a reporter for the Sixers, and I was thinking about having him on, like, eventually, like, because I'm planning out futures and everything like that, and like I definitely want to have him on for like a sports movie talk. And I was thinking about this yesterday, and then you're talking about this now. I'm like, it's just like I love small world shit like that. My favorite is when you're at a bar, and it's like after a football game. So the game, the broadcast changes, and usually it's like Law and Order.
Yeah.
But somebody put on LMFAO, like Party Rock Anthem, and it's like you like look up and the TV and the lyrics just like sync up. It's it's my favorite thing in the world. I love it.
Yeah. There's another one I want to do called Coffee, Cannabis, and Cartoons, where I just wait for the edibles to wait for the edibles to kick in and do
I need to know about this.
No, that's what I want to do. I want to do a show called Coffee, Cannabis, and Cartoons, where I wait for the edibles to kick in and watch like Bob's Burgers and talk about Bob's Burgers.
I'm like a huge cartoon guy.
Yeah,
it's
me
like,
too.
The reason I got into like illustration is because of cartoons. Like I used to watch a fuck ton of Animaniacs. Like
for me, it's Bob's Burgers mostly. Like I watch a lot of cartoons, but Bob's is my go-to background music. I don't put music on in the background. I put Bob's on in the background. You know, when I'm working, Bob's is on my TV.
Oh, it's got to be lo-fi music, man.
Okay.
Always lo-fi or Wu-Tang. I can do Wu-Tang too.
Nice.
It's got to be something that's like it's got that low fidelity sound.
Who was just one of the dudes from Wu-Tang was just on Tom Segura's podcast and it was really fucking good. Do you like Segura? Do you watch it? Him at all?
So I haven't watched all of his stand-ups. I watched one recently. A friend showed me. I forget which one it was. But it was really good. I remember it being
Two Bears, One Cave is a great podcast with him and Bert. Bert Kreischer takes his shirt off all the time. They have a great podcast together. But Tom has one called Tom Talks where he interviews people like just one-on-one because he also has Your Mom's House where it's him and his wife and that has millions of fucking followers. Like it's one of the top 5 in comedy.
Really?
Yeah. It's up there with Rogan's with like popular.
I listen to Joe Rogan like all the time.
Yeah, I listen to Rogan.
Do you think so? Like me personally, I think Joe Rogan I'm not a big fan of Joe Rogan's stand-up. Like I don't find it particularly that funny.
Yeah,
I love his podcast. Like I love it.
And you know why? It's because he knows how to listen.
Yeah.
He knows how to shut the fuck up and he knows how to listen, but he also knows how to ask the questions that we're asking in the car. You know, when we're listening at home, he's asking the same questions we have.
Yeah.
And then he shuts
very
up.
Aware of how he approaches things too. Like he knows like if he's like overstepping or you know, like how to speak to somebody to get them to like open up more or vice versa, things like that. Like he's a good interviewer.
I think
like, the thing is
the king is like Howard.
Sorry?
Stern is the king of like, you know, getting people to open up. Like Stern, he could sit there and people, you know, when I listen to Howard, even growing up,
stories he gets people to tell.
People will start and preface their stories with like, I can't believe I'm about to tell you this.
Jim
Howard.
Brewer story about Lars Ulrich from Metallica.
Yeah, I know that. Yes, Jim Brewer has told some, but yeah, he was just on there. They just replayed that recently too. Like, really? Give that if anyone listening, give that a Google. Jim Brewer and Howard Stern and Lars Ulrich. Definitely worth it. And Lars Ulrich, there's a fucking Matt Damon wrote about Lars Ulrich in Good Will Hunting, kind of. Like, you've seen Good Will Hunting?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the end of Good Will Hunting is, you know, she leaves and she goes to California, right? She's going to college and she leaves and he goes to see about a girl. Well, in real life, Matt Damon was writing about his girlfriend that left him and was for somebody else, and that somebody else was Lars Ulrich.
No shit.
Yeah, I read that somewhere years ago.
Really?
So, yeah.
Interesting. I never knew that.
But then again, that movie was also rewritten by Kevin Smith. That movie was not going to be made from Matt Damon and Ben Affleck writing it. Do you know how, like, you watch Kevin Smith movies, like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and all that? Remember how they did Good Will Hunting 2, Hunting Season? And they're like, you know how when your friend says you owe them a favor? And because Ben Affleck and Matt Damon were in, you know, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, the sequel. Well, the favor that they owed him was he rewrote Good Will Hunting for them, and that's how they were able to sell it. They weren't able to sell their
script. I didn't know that either.
And Ben Affleck,
movie stuff.
Ben Affleck was good friends with Kevin Smith from doing Mallrats and shit, right?
Yeah.
Doing those movies. He said to his buddy, who was a writer, "Hey, take a look at my script for me." And
is
then
Kevin Smith on the credits for writing?
He's in the special thanks. And then they thanked him.
I'm like, wait,
and then they thanked him during their Academy Award speech because he fucking rewrote it and never would have became a movie if he didn't do the rewrites.
Interesting.
So the favor that they owed him for Good Will Hunting 2, Hunting Season, and Jay and Silent Bob was the favor of him rewriting Good Will Hunting for them to sell it. That's one of my favorite fucking movies. So, when I read that, I'm like, no wonder why I like this movie so much. I fucking love Kevin Smith movies.
Yeah.
My writing.
Clerks is like one of my all-time favorite comedies. It's top 10 easily.
And
I'm not so big on the newer ones, but.
And I haven't even seen the new Clerks 3, but like, the way he wrote in the 90s, like if you were to read my first screenplay I wrote, you would say, did you like try to be Kevin Smith? You know what I mean? Like the first screenplay I wrote was 10 years ago, and it was called Video Story, about these two guys that worked at a video rental store, which is kind of similar, and they find love, you know what I mean? And
that would be a good like film to write now, because
there's
it's
no
got
video
like a
rentals.
little bit of a nostalgic thing, because like
Yeah, I still have
there's
it.
no fucking video stores anywhere.
I still have it somewhere. There's a lot of conversations. I started writing because of Quentin Tarantino, though.
Yeah.
Like he's the one. I watched True Romance, and after I got done watching it, I'm like, I need to write movies. Like
What's
I
your
need to write
favorite Tarantino movie?
True Romance.
True Romance.
And he didn't even direct it. He wrote it.
Right.
My favorite one that he wrote and directed would probably be Inglourious Bastards. Wrote and directed.
Okay.
But I would say just straight wrote is True Romance. So what I'm really curious of is he wrote Natural Born Killers, right? One of the biggest movies in the 90s with Oliver Stone, but he hates it. He got his name taken off of the credits. He refuses to write for other people because of what Oliver Stone did to his original script. And like, so that makes me so curious. Like everyone loves that movie, but him. It makes me very curious. Like,
I'm indifferent.
What did Tarantino write that Oliver Stone changed? And I want to see Tarantino's version.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like Tarantino's voice would be better suited for that movie than Oliver Stone's.
100%.
I mean, Oliver Stone's like, meh.
He does history biopics. You know what I mean? Like, think about like what he did in the 80s. He did like Born on 4th of July. He did fucking Wall Street.
That's a good movie. I do like Born on 4th of July, although it's not it doesn't have a lot of rewatch value. Like,
no.
I saw it once.
Yeah.
It was really good. But like, I don't know if I'm gonna be chomping at the bit to watch it again.
He did a 3-part. That was part 2 of his 3-part thing for Vietnam. Part 1 was in that movie with Charlie Sheen. What's that fucking movie?
Platoon.
Platoon. That was his first movie they did that was based on Oliver Stone in Vietnam. That was based on his experiences.
Right. He's in Vietnam.
So part 2 of his Vietnam was him doing Born on 4th of July, and then he did like something else that was Vietnam related for another one. But think about it. I forget. He did like JFK. You know what I mean? In the 90s. He was doing all these movies. He did W.
Did he do Bobby?
He might have. He does all historical ones. Like I think
he might have done that. He's
obsessed with doing historical shit. And he even had a Showtime series that was breaking down the history of the United States. So for him to do Natural Born Killers was like kind of off. It was taking somebody else's writing. Usually he was taking real life events and making them dramatic. So I know that's why I don't really like Natural Born Killers. And I think it's because of that. I would appreciate Tarantino's version more. I love the idea of couples together. My second thing I wrote was called hybristophilia. And hybristophilia is the technical term for Bonnie and Clyde syndrome. And
Bonnie and Clyde syndrome?
Bonnie and Clyde syndrome means I'm attracted to somebody because they do bad shit.
Is this like an actual...
Yeah, hybristophilia is the word for it. Yeah.
Huh.
So I wrote a screenplay called Hybristophilia, which is about a couple that falls in love that are con artists together. And it takes place in the 80s, and the woman is the narrator doing the voiceover the entire time. It's from her perspective, which is a nod to Tarantino with what he did with True Romance, with having her doing the narration. And I wanted her perspective of it and her to kind of be in charge, because no one really knows that Bonnie was in charge of Clyde. Clyde was a simp, as what guys would call him today. Bonnie said she wanted this, she wanted that, and he did whatever the fuck Bonnie wanted. And Bonnie ran shit.
Did you see that Discovery Channel? With Emil Hirsch, I guess it was.
That's what that's where, they really, for the first time, did they make it public that Bonnie was in charge, not him. Was in that, in that 8-part series or whatever, a 4-part series. I think it was 4 parts and they were 2 hours long. The Emil Hirsch one that you're talking about.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
So I wrote Hybristophilia, and my fucking hard drive failed on Act 3, and
So you no longer have the script?
No.
Oh, it's a
I
bummer.
have it up here, a lot of the shit.
Right.
And
yeah.
then I was about to start writing again, and then Will Smith's Margot Robbie Focus came out, and it's very similar with how it's
Yeah, but
con
that
art.
movie was not that good. I didn't like it.
It wasn't. It wasn't. To me, it was like I need to take a break from this script because this movie exists, and it was similar with she went under his wing. She was his, he was her mentor.
I say nonsense. I say you can have the script.
I know.
Write it.
I need to redo it now. I've been getting my juices flowing with rewriting again. So
it's like I got like so many things I want to do. It's just like it's a matter of just doing them. It's like what order to do them in and how to manage. Like I'm really. It's hard to like.
I found a hotel that I wanted. Yeah.
It's like it's hard to like manage them and like I'm just learning how to like I used to never do shit like actual creative projects and finish them. Like it would last me like 8 years to like finish it. Maybe I finish it, maybe I don't. And then so like I'm trying to learn how to like handle one job and then like also like make it two and then maybe make it three and then try to handle a bunch of different things slowly. But I'm also like I just turned 37 2 weeks ago, so like I'm also trying to like make up for lost time. So I'm trying to hustle and stuff, but also I'm like perfectionist and like I need to be this way. So like it's just so hard to like manage doing things like creative.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sitting down and talking to me, bud.
Yeah.
I gotta hop off. And I will let you know when this is out.
All right, man.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Peace.
All right, go Birds. See ya.
Birds.